Hi, everyone. Welcome to episode 11 of Learning Outside the Lines with Kyle and Glenn, or Glenn and Kyle. It doesn't matter. We're really excited to have you with us yet again. Today, we've got even more to share with you. We've got a guest who will join us again today for the first time, I should say. So this is going to be Dr. Margaret Robbins. She is a 7th grade humanities teacher at Mount Vernon School. She's also a teacher researcher, so we're very excited to have her join us. She'll be able to speak to the private school sector and what's kind of going on there in this space.
Yeah.
As well as I'm fascinated by being able to label and talk about a classroom being humanities based and what that encompasses, right?
Okay. Yeah, definitely.
All right, sir. Let's start with some stories. What's going on in your world, Glenn?
I would first like to comment on the way that your sweater makes your blue eyes just pop.
Well,
but that's not really the anecdote.
That is quite the compliment, sir. Thank you.
Well, it's the truth. It's the truth. So
I want to how the computer screen reflects off of your eyeglasses.
Thanks. I know it's great for video. That's what they say. So I wanted to just talk a little bit about some of the cool stuff that my students are doing. This was really uplifting for me yesterday. We've been trying to work on creating new community guidelines. So I created a Google Doc for them just to kind of come up with some guidelines for themselves, for each other, and then also for the class. And I was really, really blown away. I was nervous, to be honest, about putting up a doc where it was editable by like 100 people. And now they were working off of a Padlet we made last week where they kind of brainstormed some of this free flow. So this is like the polished version that they've kind of brought their favorites over from. But like not once have I had to clean anything up or like worry about anything being like naughty or ha ha ha. You know, it was all really, really mature. And I asked for that, but they gave it to me. And I've just been giving shout outs to people who've been editing it like over the past 2 days.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Right there in the feels.
Yeah, it's so funny. So, you know, you've talked to this a little bit before too about how we shouldn't be afraid of letting kids edit, but at the same time, you are afraid. It's really interesting. You know, it's trusting students. I know is a tightrope for us,
Yeah.
but I think I will always lean on the side of, well, let's let them try it and see who screws up.
Always.
Just decide they're going to.
Yeah, definitely. And then it's just a matter of a conversation as opposed to not doing something at all. Because it's like just a conversation. Like that's not that bad.
Yeah.
Even when it's bad, it's not that bad.
Absolutely. My anecdote actually changed. If you looked at the document earlier, I had something completely different, but I had an interesting interaction earlier today. I was randomly pinged by a message of a former student. And by former student, I mean she was in my very first year of teaching freshman language arts class.
Wow.
So I have not seen or spoken to this young lady since this would have been, her senior year would have been 8, 9, 10. So she would have graduated in 2011, right?
Okay.
So this is back in the day by those standards at this point. But it was lovely to hear from her. And so she messaged me. She was like, hey, Mr. Jones, I don't know if you remember me or not. I'm so-and-so. But there is a murder mystery novel we read in 9th grade, and I can't remember what it's called, and it's driving me crazy, and I really like the book, and I want to reread it. Can you please tell me what it is? And I was like, absolutely, I remember you. And then, and I really did. I was not.
Yeah. Of course.
And I said it was, and then there were none, an Agatha Christie novel. And I think where she really blessed me, and the reason why I wanted to share this anecdote, because we don't always get these pieces of feedback a decade later. But She goes, you know, I entered your classroom hating to read, but I left your classroom loving to read, and I read every day now as an adult.
And that was your first year.
And I'm just like, yeah. And I didn't know anything in my first year.
Right.
Like I thought I was doing good things, and now I've learned, shouldn't have done that.
Yeah.
That, you know, but just to hear that was, I mean, wow, what a blessing on my day, and an uplifting anecdote, hopefully for anybody. You too out there, if you were a teacher, you've got that story, 2, 3, 4 dozens of students whose lives you've changed. Just don't forget that, especially in these times. Kids remember these things, and to hear her come back as an adult and talk about how she loves to read now, they steal my English heart, right?
Very uplifting, very uplifting.
All right, so without further ado, let's get into it. Glenn, what is our digital teaching hack?
All right, so this is a app that I stumbled upon on complete accident. It's called Scrambler, and I was looking for something that was like Padlet, but not capped at 3 Padlets, because that's really frustrating. And they have a monthly subscription. It's like $10 a month, which is, for me, pretty outrageous. Like, I subscribed to Screencastify for, I think it was $12 a year. And I'm like, okay, that's cool. I can do $1 a month. But like $10 a month, like I don't even pay that to Nintendo. So I needed something that's going to get me doing work with students that is kind of helping them to respond in these digital spaces. Discussion boards can be so boring. Now, there's some pros and cons to this tool. So this is what Scrambler looks like. This is actually their demo page. And if you go to Scrambler, that's CRUMBLR.ca, that's just the website. And if you do a /demo, it comes up with their demo page. This is a live document right now that the whole world has access to, which is kind of freaky, but it works very much like
It kind of takes your fears from earlier about letting 100 kids have access to a whole nother level.
Well, yeah, well, this is just the demo. The actual ones, they're at least protected by, you have to have the link. Now, there isn't any more security beyond that link, which is definitely a con. But you can just take a note and throw it up on the board like that, all cute, and then double click on it and edit it. Now, that's actually literally going out to the whole world, which is crazy. But it's kind of cool. And you can, they've stretched this. The boards are stretchable and resizable. Like you can literally just grab the corner of the board and change its shape, which is kind of freaky. I don't really know if that eraser does anything beyond look really cute at the bottom. And this little pen moves around too. But I don't know really what else it does. I'm still playing around with this. There's a way to add extra columns to kind of divide up spaces, and then you can change the stuff at the top. Now, see, this is like a note out there to OP, to original poster. So like sometimes I pull this thing up and there's some really like, whoa, stuff on there. So I was hoping it looked clean for today. But yeah, you can just make little notes. To me, that's all I ever wanted from Padlet. So I'm going to be using this with podcasting just for students to give other students shout outs in a really informal way, like super informal. Padlet can be really formal, put your name, do this, do that. No, how about we just shout out the stuff we're seeing that's cool, and that's our like formative check for the day, and we're good, especially in these times right now. I wanted something simple. So that's what I found. Kind of cool.
Yeah.
And it's free. It's free. So, yeah.
Well, yeah, and I was going to ask, why you would maybe use that over Padlet, since that's a more common one that's used that does very similar work. But I get that. I understand that it takes out one layer of needing to process the information, and it's a much quicker check. So,
yeah, and also to access, right? Like you don't have to create an account, you don't have to sign up. It's even lighter, I think, on processing than Padlet. It's just super informal. And sometimes it's good. Like we can't see them just raise their hands right now. So we've got to do something. There's no like, it's literally the equivalent of a Post-it note.
Yeah. Okay, well, cool. Thank you.
Yeah.
So we're going to get into the second part of what we do every time we do these episodes, and that's what's the good word?
Ooh, the good word.
So for what's the good word, we're going to bring on Dr. Margaret Robbins. She is a 7th grade humanities teacher at Mount Vernon School in Sandy Springs, and she's a teacher researcher, and she's done a lot of writing around teaching writing, comics, and young adult literature. She's got a book chapter coming out soon that she can speak to a little bit. That's part of NCTE publication, Principles and Practice book called Writing Can Change Everything, Middle Level Kids Writing Themselves into the World.
You had me at
that's
comics.
Pretty exciting. All right, so let's bring her on with us now.
You know the coolest people. What?
Hi.
Hey, Margaret,
Hello.
how are you?
Doing well, thanks. How are y'all?
Good. Thanks
Good.
for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, we're very excited. It's we always I reach out sometimes and be like, hey, do you want to come to our silly show and just expect rejection? So it's really nice that you decided you didn't want to reject us. So we appreciate it.
I was happy to do it. I was excited.
Good. We are really happy to have you. I had the great opportunity through our mutual friend Nick to meet you and kind of get to know you as you were kind of finishing your doctoral process, and I was kind of finishing mine, and you were going to end up in certain spaces. So it's interesting because you ended up landing in middle grades, which I don't necessarily know was the original intention, but I love following you online. Both as a teacher and as someone who's a researcher, just practicing in the world and being yourself, which I think is a pretty extraordinary thing, because it's the same life, but it's two windows into what that life is. And I know we hadn't really talking about this, but I just want to let you know I really enjoy how you share both parts of yourselves in that way.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I enjoy getting to share ideas with other teachers on Instagram. And especially during a time like this, I think it can be really inspiring to look at other teachers' social media pages for inspiration.
Yeah. So let's kind of get into it. The first question I had for you is, we haven't really had any private school representation on the show so far. We take for granted, the public school teacher struggle right now, and not necessarily that there's a tremendous difference between those two worlds, but I want you to speak to that. What kind of misconceptions might a public educator like ourselves have that the private school setting and kind of the unique challenges that you are dealing with going fully digital?
Okay, I feel like I have both perspectives to a degree because I did teach public school for 7 years and now I am in the private sector. So I will acknowledge that we have resources that some public schools probably don't have. For instance, we are a one-to-one school, so all of our students have iPads. So in some ways, to be honest, that makes going digital a little bit easier. Having said that, like I think you implied, I think some of the struggles are the same. For instance, our school is really big on collaboration. That's a really important part of who we are and our school's mission. And that can be more challenging, honestly, to do in a digital space. And some of our students have spoken to the feeling of isolation that comes with the quarantine and that comes with distance learning. And one thing I'm working on personally as a teacher is how to create more discussion spaces within my Zoom meetings. I do know that Zoom allows for breakout rooms, so I'm trying to come up with creative ways to utilize those in my digital space. And we are also working on that, I think, as a school. I'm also the sponsor of our junior prefect student government program. So we're trying to think of creative ways to invite students in socially, because school is not just about academics, it's also about experiences. So we're thinking about game nights, movie nights, things like that. So while I do think resources are different from school to school, I do think all schools are struggling with how to keep students engaged and how to keep them connected with each other, especially during, honestly, a stressful time.
Yeah. I think what kind of naturally flows into that, and I love that you were kind of speaking to, we're looking at, how do we engage students even outside of the academic realm and really leveraging what I consider an opportunity. I think other teachers are starting to see this as an opportunity too. My quick anecdote before I ask the question, just that I feel kind of connects to this, is when I think about supporting teachers the way that I am right now, I'm doing way more interactive one-on-one support than I would do normally. Which I think is actually great. I'm supporting teachers at a very different level, which is exciting to me, because physically it was hard to drive my car from this school to that school to that school across the county in meaningful ways. And you always take for granted you always had this tool, or at least I did, So kind of the follow-up to what you were just talking about is just thinking about what's kind of been like the initial success story, right? What's the thing that you've kind of created or done and the kids were all in on it, or you were really excited to see it start to come to life? And I know we're still pretty early in the digital learning, but there's got to be something that you were pretty happy to see happen.
Well, I think this relates very much to what you were just saying, Kyle, about new opportunities. I actually took the chance to conference with my students either one-on-one or in pairs about the fan fiction essay that they've been working on. And of course, you can conference with students in a quote-unquote traditional classroom space. But I think it's easier, honestly, on the digital space, because your attention is entirely on them, either that one student or in some cases is two students who are in the Zoom room with me. So honestly, the conferences lasted about 10 to 15 minutes, which is probably longer than what I would do in a traditional classroom setting. And it gave me a chance to not only give them feedback as writers, but to get to know some of their interests as people, because fan fiction is conducive to writing about something that you're passionate about and that you're interested in. And I feel like that was a chance that I would get perhaps in a classroom setting, just not for as long. And I think that connection is important, because I think a lot of parents in a lot of different schools are struggling with the balance between their own jobs and their own responsibilities and playing some of the roles that sometimes us teachers would more so play. So I think that makes our personal connection with students even more important.
So you said some things there that got me really, really excited. So you're talking about doing fan fiction with students. Okay. Yes. That's like a really cool idea. And you're also talking about doing these conferences. Did you have them do like a sign-up sheet for that? Was there like what was the process for getting them involved that way?
Well, at my school, we have office hours in addition to live Zoom sessions, which we usually offer twice a week, and asynchronous activities. And last week, because their narrative was due on Friday, I extended my office hours. They're normally 30 minutes a day, so I extended them to an hour a day. And yeah, it's exactly what you just said.
Okay.
I provided the Zoom link, which is my office hours space, so to say.
Yeah.
And they signed up for a time. And honestly, I actually encouraged them to sign up with a friend or an acquaintance from their class, because I think that interaction with each other is really important right now too, in addition to interacting with me.
Yeah, and it makes it a little less scary too if they've got like a kind of a buddy system. Yeah, because I had students all the time that would literally come into my classroom during my planning period and bring a friend, and it's totally like their like support system. That's cool. Okay, yeah, I love that idea. That's really neat.
Yeah. Thank you. And I agree that it made it a little bit less intimidating for some students, because as a college student, I got used to going to office hours. I was at UGA. It was a huge school. It was the only way I could really connect to and get to know my professors better, was to go to office hours. But I think for middle schoolers, they're still getting used to this idea in our new normal. So especially for the first time, I think having another peer there with them was meaningful and helpful. And I've also considered, before our digital storytelling project, having them sign up in small groups to meet.
Okay, yeah, that's cool.
Yeah,
definitely.
Well, we didn't want to end without you getting a chance to kind of speak to the publication you have coming out. So I just want to show everybody really quick what the book cover looks like, that you were kind enough to share with us too. So Writing Can Change Everything, the middle level kids writing themselves into the world. So can you preview for us what your chapter is about when it comes out?
Yes. Well, I currently teach a humanities class, which is a combination of literature, English language arts, and social studies. My first 2 years at my current school, I taught a course that was solely focused on grammar and writing. And my students did what I like to call a game design and writing project. They built a grammar or literacy game from scratch, which I know has been done in some other classrooms. What I decided to do that I felt would be a unique challenge for 7th graders is to have them write a narrative to go along with the game. So I actually showed them previews of both the 1995 Jumanji movie that was big when I was about their age, give or take.
Okay.
And then the more current Jumanji that honestly I think resonates more with their generation, where it's more video games.
Yeah.
And my goal there was to have them write a story about either playing a game and something weird happens, or getting trapped inside of the game, so to say, because I felt like it would stretch them creatively and also improve their narrative writing skills.
Yeah,
that's cool.
That's cool. Yeah, and I think what's nice about that too is I know it's a middle grades focused book, but by all means, what's something entirely translatable to the high school level for that matter.
Yeah, I
can already see Glenn determining how he's going to leverage this and use it in his own classroom.
Please. I'd be happy to talk to you.
That would be really cool.
Oh yeah, let's do it, because I learned a lot from the first time I did it and made modifications for the future. And I completely agree, Kyle. I love getting ideas from teachers of all levels, and you modify and you tweak for your age group, but the core ideas that are central, I think, can be applied to any age group.
Absolutely.
Very cool.
I mean, that's part of why we're doing this, right? Just trying to share, we're all in the struggle together. What are you doing to work through that struggle, and sharing these great ideas, I think, is really powerful. So again, Margaret, I know that you were very active on social media. I'm kind of putting you on the spot here, so Glenn will edit it out if he needs to. But if somebody wanted to connect with you on social media, how would they reach out to you?
Oh, please. Absolutely. I have a professional Instagram account and also an a Twitter account as well. So my Instagram is Dr. Margaret Robbins, all one word. And then my Twitter handle is @WriterMar. So please, I love networking with other teachers. Feel free to reach out to me.
That's why I went out on the limb to see if you'd be willing to share that, because I think there's going to be people that are going to want to connect with you after hearing you speak. So,
I'm happy to do it. I'd be honored.
Yeah.
All right. So like we always do, we'll ask you to stick around, and we're going to do our little outro piece. The outro I have for us today has to do with something that's going on in our district. And this is while we try to stay away from a lot of COVID-19 discussion, we can't get away from it because it is a factor of our lives. But there's some good news that can come out of the situation that's happening right now as well. So what I want to share with everybody is this tweet that our local career center has. So Maxwell High School is where any student in our district can go to take CTE courses, career and tech ed courses. And one of the specialty ones they can take there is manufacturing. And this class has only existed for about 2 years now, but the teacher, the instructor there is extraordinary and is connected on Twitter. And one of the things that they've recently started doing in collaboration with a couple of engineering teachers across the district is wanting to gear up the equipment that they're using to basically produce PPE equipment, those personal protective devices for local healthcare. I don't have a latest update to see how far along they are in that process, but their local principals have been kind enough to let them as individuals come into the building and start tinkering with, the design and seeing if they can get some 3D printing going. And so that's what the teacher was kind of sharing here too, that while they can't really get into the shop with the kids, they spent this last week during spring break getting into what they call Print Farm MK1 up and running remotely, so they can be able to do some of that stuff from home and still get some stuff produced. And then one individual can come in and take those things and donate them if they're of high enough quality. So I'll try to get an update for us, but I just thought that was just a very cool thing happening in these spaces where this equipment would otherwise be used, and the need is high. So I wanted to let everybody get a glimpse of that.
That's really cool. That's really cool.
I hope they're successful. I know it's something that they want to do. I think everybody wants to help right now. Everybody wants to do something that'll make an impact positively. So one step closer, right? So thanks everybody for watching as normal. We'll go ahead and do our sign off. If you want to connect with me on Twitter, I'm @theProfJones.
And I'm @GChamp668.
All right. And again, we appreciate you watching and checking us out. We'll continue to make these episodes, assuming people want to watch them. In the meantime, have a good rest of your week, your day, and please stay safe and healthy.